Alrighty. Let's try this again. All right. I think everything's up and running. Now, today I'd like to discuss my second book that I've been working on for about 2 years now. I've been doing all the research, bringing forth all the materials, all my notes, things from my own personal grimoires, and been putting them together, typing them up. So I've got about two, maybe three different three-ring binders full of just things I've typed up so far. And it's still going. I mean, literally, it's still going. And but there's been other aspects to this that's been going on that I've been dealing with as well. One of the things it's been doing is the things that I'm planning on putting in there, from rituals, evocations and invocations, angels and demons and the jinn, their histories, their the hierarchy of the underworld, the whole kit and caboodle, and kind of like a who's who, who's connected to whom, ranking structure, and but the big thing is showing you that there's an actual order. There's orders within the underworld that a lot of people are not familiar with. I mean, a lot of people follow the, say, for an example, the Lesser Key of Solomon, the Clavicle of Solomon magical system, but they really don't get into a lot of other areas. And the thing that's interesting about this book is, and the works that are going to be in it, is the fact that right here is just one small portion. We know Solomon the king, son of David, from the book, from the Old Testament Canaanite variation, okay, or the Israelites from them, the Hebrews, as they were called. Moses' line going all the way back to Abram or Abraham. Okay, we know this today as the 7 books of Moses. Okay, but there's actually an 8th book out there, and a lot of people don't know this either. But the 6th and 7th books of Moses deal specifically with black magic. It deals with a lot of different things on orders, such as the hierarchy structure. And it does go back to the constitution of Pope Honorius, 2nd century. Okay. Now, here's the thing. When we look at grimoires such as the Grand Grimoire, the Grand Grimoire Red Dragon, they're basically the same book, just 2 different authors of it. Somebody took it and made it their own. Basically just copied it. Today, that would be called plagiarism. But the workings in them have been passed down through generations to generations of black magicians, and those who have practiced and studied this and refined it, such as Agrippa from the 3 books of occult philosophy, or that of The Magus by Francis Barrett, volume 1 and 2. Okay. Now, what's interesting to note is throughout all the years, all the centuries, there are so many different grimoires out there that speak of the hierarchies and different orders of beings that follow the Dark Lord, or that of, say, for example, Satan, Lucifer, Azazel. Now, over the last 6 months, I've been getting heavily involved with Azazel. Okay. Azazel, the Ancient Darkness. He is very powerful, one of the greatest lords out there. And I mean, he's opened my eyes to things in the last 6 months I didn't even know existed. But I've also been getting heavily into the cabal aspects of things and the rituals within the cabal. Now, those of you who are not familiar with the cabal, the ascended master Sumnus Dreadwood wrote a series of books, and he put all his knowledge in these books. And any acolyte, any adept, a neophyte that wants to really learn black magic would heed to get into these, because they are very, very powerful grimoires. They're very, very powerful workings. It's much in the same way as Curtis Joseph's book, book on black magic of Ahriman. Very, very powerful grimoire, beautifully written. And again, they're utilizing systems that have been around for centuries, and it's things that they've personally experienced, things that they personally believed in and believe in, things that they've worked, beings that they've worked with, that they're getting things laid out with, and they're putting systems out there that are being refined to help you, the acolytes, who are interested in learning magic, getting to know these old deities. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to write this book and have been trying to get it written over the last couple of years, because of the fact that I wanted to show the hierarchy, but I also wanted to put forth works that would allow you to work with them, to get in contact with them. Now, this was the rub. When I first started writing this book, The Master Grimoire of the Warlock, I kept getting hung up on things because of the fact that every time I went down a stretch with a specific deity, it ended up opening up into other deities and then other systems. And I had to go into those systems, and I had to hunt down the information that I was seeking. And again, it opens it right back up again. For an example, most recently, I did a video. I started a series here on YouTube called The Journey into Satanism. And I started dealing with the old deities, the old gods, the old angels, the old, beings. And I talked a little bit about the history of it, how it came to be, why it's important to show respect for them, what tools are used, how to set up an altar, how to do this and how to do that. But what I didn't realize was that there was actually a working in progress that I didn't even know. Okay, that I didn't even see coming. And I did speak to this in part 5 of Journey into Satanism. When you go into a ritual and you have a plan, doesn't mean that plan's not gonna, basically fall to shit, because it will. Because these gods, these angels, these demons, they've got plans too. And if you don't have room for them to do their works, then you're not really going to get very far. Because there's your will, there's their will, and there's the universe's will. And the universe's will always trumps everybody else's, hands down. That's the one thing I've experienced in my life that is absolute truth. And then I saw a post by a Luciferian brother on Facebook, and I ended up doing a video on it and just showing it from a 3D perspective. The Witch's Creed, also known as the Witch's Pyramid. This can also go into what is known as the Witch's Pyramid meditation as well. So, I mean, you see how that went right into it, and it was like, so after I got done doing this one video, I ended up getting into the rituals again, started getting into the research mode, getting into reading some more, getting more information. And then I ended up falling ill at the beginning of this week. And that really sucked because of the fact that it took a lot out of me. So for the most part of this week, I haven't really been able to do much except for lay on my ass and do nothing and sleep. But the last few days, I've really stepped up again and started delving back into these rituals and started delving back in and summoning these beings, specifically Azazel, Moloch, Dagon, okay, and really getting into the workings again with my pantheon, my patron, Astaroth, okay. And what's interesting here is that the last two rituals I did really had a unique outlook. My vision started going weird, almost like I was being pulled between the physical realm and the astral realm. It was like my spirit was trying to be separate from my body. And it really, really was an interesting experience. Because if you're not trying to do that yourself, and it's one thing when you're doing it yourself through astral projection, but when you're being pulled in a completely different area from where you're trying to go, and it's not in your control, that is something that tells you that, okay, these beings are trying to show you something. So again, we're going to go right back into the Witch's Creed, the Witch's Pyramid, okay, the Witch's Oath, the Sorcerer's Oath, and or the Sorcerer's Promise, as E.A. Koetting put it. And what was interesting is I'm reminded about this because about, what was it, like 4 or 5 months ago, I caught one of his live readings, his live chats, and at the time I was having these conversations with some noobs, and they were inquiring about tattoos, and it's like, I have a tattoo. It's of my patron. And one of the questions was, would you consider that a gateway or a portal, a personal sigil that links you directly to that being? So I ended up asking EA what his thoughts were, and of course he replied right off the bat, and told me about the Witch's Promise and the Witch's Creed and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm well aware of keeping the oath and stuff like that, but yeah, I got his point though. I mean, it is considered a gateway. It is considered a personal link to that being's domain. And so when I got into doing this video on the Witch's Pyramid, to try and help my, this brother out and kind of give him a full perspective on him because of what he was going through at the time and what he was trying to figure out, I figured it might help him. And Here's what was this really took me by surprise, was because to see how this played into the journey of Satanism that I was putting forth, and again, right back into the book that I'm writing, really surprised the hell out of me. Because not only is it all going in there, it's a spiritual path working. It's literally a spiritual path working. My personal experience in this, and this is something that I really wanted to put forth, was when I did the witch's pyramid, taking the oath, utilizing the 5 elements: earth, air, water, fire, and most importantly, spirit. These things are also considered the 5 pillars. Okay. In Islam, it is known as the 5 pillars. In Hebrew and witchcraft and shamanism, it's something else. It's the 5 pillars of spirit elemental workings. Okay, that combined to make something new. Okay, Raymond Buckland, in his book Signs, Sigils, and Omens, wrote about this within glyphs, runes, various different traditions, from the travelers to Buddhism to witchcraft to Christianity to the Masons, the Masonics, the Masons, and most importantly, all the way back into ancient alchemy, zodiacs, demonology, angelology, the old sigils, the glyphs. And it's like, son of a bitch, because when I got back into doing this stuff, I'm reminded right again of what I was doing, where this was going. And like I said yesterday, and I was talking to this brother just last night, and I took some photos of the altar and posted it on Facebook, my Facebook page, and in some groups, and kind of just gave a little bit of information. I didn't go into full detail like I'm doing here. And even here, I'm not going to give the full details. I'm just going to give you some aspects of what is going into the book, but also about the works that is being put into the book that I'm still refining and working on. And again, you're seeing the structure of the hierarchy, the different orders. A lot of the grimoires put Lucifer as being the head of the underworld. Underneath him is Belial, or Beelzebub, rather, the Lord of Flies, and then you have Astaroth, the Grand Duke. Now, last week and into early this week, I was working with geometric shapes. Why is it so important to have these shapes? Okay, for an example, the triangle. The point going down on a triangle symbolizes feminism. It resembles the vulva. Okay, whereas pointed up, it is the masculine, the male. Okay, the god versus the goddess. Okay, it goes into the phallus. Okay, so you're seeing where this all goes into play. But when you get into like necromancy and occultism, you're seeing where the circle of empowerment comes into play. You're seeing, especially in the Munich manuscripts, which is a necromancer's book of sorcery, experiments, where the triangle is where you invoke or evoke a spirit, utilizing herbalism, alchemy, okay, geometry, the seven forbidden arts and practices. Okay, but here's the kicker: when you get into demonology and you get into angelology, especially that through the old works such as the the book of Enoch. You're going into all these grimoires, and you're seeing all the different orders of angels. Okay? When we study Satan, for example, who in the book of the grimoire of Armadale, and that of the Magus, okay, from Francis Barrett, okay, we see where he is referred to as the witch father, okay, the father of all witches, warlocks, sorcerers alike, okay. Very, very interesting information there. But then when you get into his research, you understand that he's not an ordinary angel. He's a member of the Grigori, which is an order of angels known as the Watchers. And he's not just any of them. He's a chief. Okay, he's the head of them. You go into the origins of his name. Okay, Ha Satan in Hebrew means accuser, whereas in Islamic means El Shaitan. Okay, and it means accuser. So instead of the opposer, so instead of being this angel, he's literally living up to his office, his state, his duties as being the opposer to just about everything. Okay, that is not of what he's supposed to be, his duty. Okay, so even in the book of Job, we see where he's walked in chapter 1. He walks in and he tells this other God, okay, he goes flat out, mankind's not living right for you. Your people are not living right for you. What the fuck are you going to do? Okay? And this God looks at him and says, have you considered my servant Job? Was in the province of Ammon. Okay? Ammon, which is in modern day Iraq. You can do whatever you want to him, but you cannot kill him. Okay? And the further back you go, you get all the way back to the 10th century. You see him portraits of him standing on Mount Hinnom with his giant black wings stretched outward with every order of angels. Every order of angels hanging off them. Okay? So right here, you're seeing what I'm meaning when I'm talking about different orders. Okay? Different orders. And the one thing all these angels have in common is that they are warriors. They're not spiritual messengers. They're not here to heal you. They're not there to do your bidding, like these little fairy tales stories in kids' books that you're listening to. These beings are there to guide you, to teach you. But don't be surprised if they kick your ass, because they will. They're warriors. They're arrogant. Even in the Old Testament, you're seeing that they are warriors. Okay, in the book of Chronicles, you're seeing where a guy is literally trying to get a mule to move, and he's sitting there beating the mule. Didn't realize that the mule saw the angel standing there with a sword. In the time of David, how many soldiers were slaughtered by an angel? They're soldiers. They're warriors. Plain and simple. It wasn't until the New Testament that we see a whole new role for the angels. The spiritual messenger aspect of Gabriel. Okay? Michael was in the first half. Gabriel's in the second. Okay? The only two angels outside of Satan, who is a god, by the way. Keep that in mind. But here's the thing. He's known as the witch father. Okay? Now, what's interesting to note here is that when we get into this, we notice how Lucifer is always classified as the head, with these two individuals underneath. Lucifer's Raphael, the scribe and pact maker, that separates them, or otherwise known as the serpent's head, versus the body. And then you have all these orders underneath them. Now, what's interesting to note is that in the Munich manuscript, you come across what is known as the 36 deacons. The 36 deacons of destruction. These are the beings that are sent forth to create earthquakes, to create devastational plagues, such as the Black Plague, for an example. Okay. And then, their death, destruction, the type of apocalyptic omens that you see. And then you get into, say, for an example, I don't know, let's go with the Black Raven, also known as the threefold coercion of hell. Here we're seeing them as educators. We're seeing them as guides. You go into the dictionary Infernal. They're teaching alchemy. They're teaching herbalism. They're teaching witchcraft. They're bestowing gifts and powers, offices, such as with Belial. Okay. In the Goetia of King Solomon, the lesser key, we see where there are 9 kings, 9 great kings of the Goetia. Okay. Now, these kings have certain duties, certain abilities. They can grant you money. They can grant you insight into past, present, and future things. But some of them can actually give you offices, thrones. Okay. And this is something that is very interesting, because when you read about them, they are considered to be the most loyal to Lucifer, specifically that of Paimon. Okay. Paimon is just one of 2 angels that is actually described as being the most loyal to Lucifer himself, outside of Lucifer's Raphael, the prime minister. Okay. So right here you have senators. You've got those of the kings. You've got infernal kings, regular kings. You have infernal knights. Then you have knights. You have a whole bunch of different orders that people don't even know about. Okay. And that's what this is what I planned on doing with this book, is putting all this information in there. And I'm going to give the resources and the references and everything to go along with it in the end, so that you can actually go out and get the works and follow on your own and do your own research. Who knows? You may be able to pick something up that I missed in my research, in my study. Okay. But my own personal dealings with these beings is, some will make you work for it. Others will sit there and just work with you. Whereas others will just sit there and go, no, dumbass, you're overlooking this. So I'm going to point you in the right direction. Okay. And then you have what went on just last night. Okay. Where I was doing some evocations of the 9 kings. Okay. And a few other orders. And what was interesting was, it was just like I was being ripped into. It was like my soul, not my soul, but my spirit was being guided and literally forced to leave and go into the astral plane, which was incredible experience, because when you start going that way, you get lightheaded, you get dizzy. Well, I wouldn't say dizzy, it's more like the lightheadedness. Your vision goes all wonky, and it's just like you're losing control, like you're about to just go into a state of almost like a comatose thing. Now, what's interesting is my brother here, when I shot these photos over to him to see what he thought of them, he asked, "This man, that's powerful, it's beautiful, powerful." He says, "Does it make you feel like you're insane?" And it's like, sometimes, really, I mean, it really does make you feel like you're going insane, especially when you're working with the nine kings, because number one, you can break these kings down into three categories: persuasion, the arts, and then the sciences. Okay. Or otherwise known as the knowledge based. And this is something, it's very interesting to note this, because each one has the ability. Some have, like Belial and Beleth, have their own nature, and they can bestow this nature on you. Okay. Whereas Balaam can do transfer, transmutational stuff. You know, Balaam is known as the corrupter. He's one of the more fierce type beings out there. But then you have Paimon and Beleth and Belial, who Belial can bestow senatorships and offices upon you. You got Beleth, who can grant some knowledge, and kind of puts things into your favor. And then you have Paimon, who has the ability to persuade men's minds. Asmodeus is another one, who is the demon of, or the angel, I should say, because he was an angel before he was demonized, who's known as the demon of wrath and and desire. So I mean, he's the kind of being that you want to go to when you have a desire to do something, you know. And then you have Zagon, who basically just puts things out there, and you have Persian, a dragon, or Corzon, Persian, Corzon, Leviathan, whatever one you want to think of, you know, because there's different names for different dragons, and it's a whole nother process there. So, and a lot of people, including the right hand path, will keep a lookout for beings like Beelzebub, Leviathan, and Baal. Okay, because they're the most likely to possess. Even Balaam is known to possess. Um, I was talking with a pagan friend of mine on just him when I was working for Tractor Supply. And what was interesting with him is he said, well, if you're working with Balaam, I don't want nothing to do with you. I said, why is that? He says, because he's a corrupter. He's the one that will corrupt your soul and drag your ass to hell. So it's like, yeah, well, that's fine with me. I mean, I'm already considered to be going there anyways. But anyways, my point is that it is an outlook of these beings. Their histories go back centuries, and it is fascinating to read them. Patricia and her husband wrote a book called Satanism and Demonolatry. And what's interesting about this book is their history and their locations or time periods show that Satanism goes back at least 7,000 years. 7,000 years. This predates Christianity. This predates Zoroastrianism. Okay? So where does it go back to? Where do these beings go back to? That is the point. And to do that, you have to learn their history. You have to learn about them. You have to forge that relationship. And that's why I'm always in my altar room, or I've always got my nose stuck in a book reading, because I'm doing all these rituals. I'm doing all these invocations, these evocations, these experiments, and I'm getting these works out there. Because I'm not going to put something out there and suggest that you do something if I haven't done it first. Okay? If I haven't first performed these rituals to success, I'm not going to recommend them to somebody such as an acolyte, a neophyte, somebody who's just beginning on their journey. Okay? This is something that goes into a lot of hard work, a lot of hard dedication. And I've been getting a lot of messages as well lately about, hey, I want to get my ex back. I want to do this. I want to do that. And it's like, I don't give two shits what you want. Man up and just deal with it. She left you. Get over it. Love magic is not my forte. I don't do that shit. You want black magic? I'm more than willing to help you with that. I like the destructive stuff. That's what suits me. But I also am in this for power. And power is knowledge. Knowledge is undefiled wisdom, as Anton Szandor LaVey put it. Okay? So again, we're right back into Journey of Satanism stuff. Videos, which is insane right there. I honestly didn't, wasn't trying to go back to that, to this little story. But anyways, getting into demonology and angelology, becoming a demonolator, becoming a demonologist, okay, is something that would behoove you because of the fact that the more you learn about a being. For example, Emma Iman, Ashtaroth. For both of them, you need a silver ring. This is pure silver. Pure silver. You have to hold it to your face because their breath would be as glass cutting your skin. Your very soul. Whereas a fish, a simple fish, a gallbladder from a fish out of the Book of Tobit would keep Asmodeus away. Asmodeus, the demon of lust, the demon of wrath, who murdered 7 husbands before the 8th drove him off with a fish. A fish. This is Judaism. Right here, Judaism. Judaism. The Book of Tobit. Just because he wanted the woman. Interesting, isn't it? So the works within this book are the same things that I'm doing for these rituals, working with these beings, my own teachings in Facebook groups, when I'm socializing with fellow black magicians, dark sorcerers. Even when I'm teaching my own apprentices, it still comes back to this. It still goes back to the history, to the orders. And there are so many different orders, with each lord ruling over anywhere between 2 to 4 individuals. And then those individuals have people underneath them. They have spirits underneath them. And that's what I'm doing with this book, is I'm showing you this. Okay. And what I'm going to do, and you're probably noticing right over my left shoulder here, you got a cross over here with some other stuff. That side of the room happens to be my son's mother, who's a Baptist. And then everything on this side of the room is mine. So it's all occultism over here. My son and his mom's out in the other room, and she's trying to keep him occupied so I can do this video. But and then I got some kitties in here with me. But my point is this: learn the histories, learn everything. Don't be afraid to get into other organizations. Don't because in Satanism there are different denominations, from agnostic to spiritual to Luciferian to demonolators to traditional to spiritual. Okay. just like there would be in a Judeo-Christian society, Baptist, Catholic. Well, actually, Catholics and Jehovah Witnesses just stand on their own. But you have Mormons, Baptists, Apostolics, Pentecostals, and such. Okay, there are different orders, different denominations. The same are done with these beings. It is amazing. The more you delve into angelology and demonology, and you get into working with these beings, and they start opening these doors for you. Much like working with the Loa, Papa Legba is a being, is a Loa that you might want to get into, because he can actually open things up and allow you into other gates, and open up the other gates so that you can transcend to other Loa. Okay? Dealing with beings like Mephistopheles, a being who is more than willing to help you. And how should I say this? He's more willing to make a deal with you because it's more of a fast track thing. It's more of, okay, I'll take your soul, but I'll make you that deal. It's just a simple blood pact. Sign your name in blood. But if you want a real commitment and you want a real career within the magical systems and working with these beings one-on-one, or sometimes more than one. Like last night, I was working with the 7 Olympic spirits. I was working with the 9 kings, the 9 gatekeepers. Just yesterday, I completely evoked all of them with what I asked for them. And that's between me and them. So I'm not going to get into that aspect, because there's a lot of things in play that is between me and them. And you really don't need to know at this time. So the thing is that you really have to learn to make the deals. You have to learn to make the commitments. And the more you put in, the more you get out. You can't sit there and send a friend request to a Magus. You can't send a friend request to an Ascended Master. A Master, a Master Templi. Okay, a Magister Templi, for an example, like myself. Okay, and you can't send somebody to a high priest or priestess and say, hey, I need a ritual to do this. Do you have something like that? Do you do performances like this? Do you do rituals like this? The answer is, yeah, we do it all the time, but we're not going to do it for you. What's in it for us? Namely, because of the fact that we know through experience that only the true practitioners are going to want to follow through with this. They're going to want to keep up to date on this stuff. And they're going to want to keep working towards it. They're not just going to put words towards it and then do nothing. They're going to do the words, but they're also going to do the actions. Okay? They're going to walk the walk and talk the talk. Okay? Now, in the last 2 weeks, I've had most likely close to almost 24 individuals contact me. 24. And most of these are from third world countries to second world countries. Okay. And they've literally come to me and said, hey, I need my ex dead. She's taking my kids, or I need my wife back. I need this back. I need that back. But if you don't reply because you didn't notice the message coming in, because it's a whole different page to Messenger, they block you. If you give them what they want, they block you. So my personal thoughts on this is, if this is who you are, don't fucking contact me. Okay? But if you're serious about about wanting to change your world and your life through black magic, then yeah, contact me. I will be taking the role of Zaniel, the teacher of witchcraft, and I will make you work for it before I give you anything. Plain and simple. Is that satanic? Maybe. Through personal thought form. But you see my point. You see my point. Know who you're dealing with. And again, we're going right back to the witch's pyramid, the witch's oath. To know, to dare, to go forth, to will, and to keep silent. Oops. Did I burst your bubble? My bad. But anyways, the point of this is this. If you're serious, you'll stick around. You'll show that you're learning. You'll continue asking questions. You'll put forth the material. You'll do the work yourself. I can guide you to materials, but you have to be the one to do the work. Do I do rituals for hire? Yes. I don't normally charge, depending on, for most of them, because they're minor things and I've already got the ingredients. Do I charge for big ceremonies and stuff? Yeah. If I have to do ceremonies, then yes, I do charge for that. But for the most part, I don't really like to charge. But working with these demons, these beings, these angels, has been the best thing in my life. And even my son's mother has tried to get me to walk away from it. Her own words were, "I wish you were Christian." It's like, no, not going to happen. But you can see where all this stuff, all this history, all this knowledge is going to be put into this one book. Now, the question is, am I going to break it down into different volumes? Much like EA did with the anthropology series, book 1, 2, and 3? Or should I put them all together and have it be one hell of a big-ass book? I don't know yet. We'll see how much. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But as for the orders, learn about them, because you'll see that each order has unique powers. The 4 sub-princes or arch-prince, the archdemons, the 4 archdemons of Azrael, Ramiel, also known as Raziel, Dagon, and Asmodee. Okay? Asmodee. 4 beings. You have the 9 gatekeepers, the 9 kings. Okay? And that's just touching the iceberg, just the very, very tip. The 36 deacons of destruction, the 4 cardinals, okay? The 8 sub-princes. You have the infernal knights. You have all those who hold ranks, such as senatorships, prime ministers. You have you have so many different orders of beings out there that hold certain ranks within the inner kingdom, that it's amazing. So learn about them. Get into these grimoires. Get into them. Practice them. Experiment with them. Get into forming relationships with them through evocations and invocations. Invite them into your world. But you got to give it ample time. Per being, I would recommend no more than, no less than 6 months, no more than, say, a year. Work with one at a time until you're ready, and then you can build up from there. All right? So until next time, that's been this video. Have a good one. This Dark Sorcerer is out.